Welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of Important Work. I'm your host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with my guest today, Michele Joy. Hello, Michele.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for hanging out with me on my show, because we just not too long ago hung out on your show.
Yes.
Yes, which
awesome.
For everybody, tell everybody what the name of your show is.
It's called Law of Attraction in Action.
Yes, Perfect. I love that, by the way. And I love the law of attraction as it relates to all the things we want in life. I think there's probably some places where it's gotten a bad rap over the years, but I'm excited to explore your experience, your perspective on the law of attraction.
Awesome. I'm excited to share.
In
action. That's important.
Yeah. Give me some backstory. Give everybody a little bit of backstory on how you got to where you are today. What were you doing and what are you doing now?
Well, by trade, I'm a nurse, and I fell into this after I became divorced, and I was really struggling with being single. So I had a friend tell me about law of attraction. I'm like, oh, what? So I can just attract a partner into my life. I don't have to go looking for him. That was like revolutionary because I really hated the dating scene. So that was kind of my introduction. But what's crazy, Chris, is it led me into an amazing profound life that I never, ever expected. And it really comes down to really knowing who you are and connecting with that. So I also became a certified soul coach and just really trying to find myself. And it just one thing led to the other and the next I always say, like, follow the breadcrumbs. Yeah. And that's what's so powerful about law of attraction. It's more about not just manifesting stuff, but really knowing who you are. And then the universe will bring to you pieces and players and situations that are aligned with you. So that's kind of how, and of course, a real brief nutshell, kind of how I ended up in it.
Yeah. So what you're doing now then is what, you're a soul coach, or what do you do now?
Well, I consider myself just a coach, speaker, and author, because I do lots of coaching. I do, even though I'm a certified soul coach, I do mostly law of attraction coaching. Now I'm starting to do more business coaching. So I think all of it kind of wraps around helping people be the best version that they can be and stepping forward in that. And this is what I love about my podcast. It's about action, right? Yeah. So I'm a big action girl. I say yes to everything, even when I have no clue with what I'm doing. In fact, most of the time I have no clue. I built my podcast without never having any training, didn't know how to do it, and still do everything on my own. So it's been an extraordinary journey. So I'm really big into taking action. Yeah.
I think, like, when you talk about the breadcrumbs, and there's so many places every day for action around breadcrumbs. But I think if we're not looking for breadcrumbs, it's easy to not take that action. You remember that story about the person being stranded on a rooftop, and then God sends a helicopter, a boat, and all that, right?
Yes.
And then they die, and they're like, "Where were you? I asked so many times for you to help me." It's like, God says, "I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, I sent you a whatever, and you never."
I love that story. It's one of the most profound stories for me, because I go through that too, where I'm like, "Gosh, I need help," and then I actually stop and look at my life, like, "Oh." Yeah. A lot of things are helping me right now. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of things. Like, that's the crazy part. I think, and I'll be curious to hear how you did this, but once I started to fine tune my awareness, right, for those breadcrumbs, all of a sudden it's laughable how fast things show up. You're like, oh, that's hilarious. I just was thinking about that yesterday or this morning, and here is something.
Yeah.
That can serve that. How did you develop that self-awareness for breadcrumbs?
Well, I think really the starting point was my soul coaching and becoming who I really am and knowing who I really am. I also had a spiritual awakening in 2011, which opened me up to almost like a pure surrender of, I just felt a very exciting pull in me. I always tell people, don't be pushed into what you're doing, be pulled into it, because it really is, it feels like, oh, this feels good, I'm going there. Yeah. But I kind of lost track of the question.
Well, that's great. We were just talking about self-awareness for breadcrumbs. Like, how did you get that awareness?
Right. So that is, I think, knowing who I was and just getting curious. I think the curiosity and how it feels so good when you do that. So one thing I also did was a video series called 365 Days of Joy. And I was on a mission to prove to the world that if we follow our joy, we will attract all the great things into our life. And it's actually proven to work for me, because when I started that video series, I also started the podcast, and so many things started shifting and changing, and a lot of amazing inspired ideas kept flowing into me. And it was just truly, life became it was unfolding right before my eyes. So to me, it's all about the unfolding. And that's the breadcrumbs is the unfolding.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, the easiest way to teach this to people is to say, follow your joy. Because when you follow your joy, you raise your energy, right? You feel good.
Yeah.
And when you feel good, you're actually what in my world, we call it vibration. You're in a high vibration. You like attracts like. That's scientifically proven. So if you're in that high vibration, you're feeling good, you're going to attract the same. So this is why I love law of attraction so much, because really all you need to do, Chris, is get into a good feeling state and follow those breadcrumbs, or, follow the inspired action, right?
Yeah, totally. I think that's part of the breakdown for people is, I think and it has been for me, is in the being attached to what it looks like.
Right.
And so when it doesn't look like what I thought it would look like, one, I don't notice it. I don't see it. So I can't take action on it. But two, I start to, I'm so stubborn and stuck on the way I had it that there's no surrender, to your point. There's no surrender to, there's no dance with the divine. There's no, right? Like I'm so used to controlling life that I can't dance in the variables of it all.
Yeah. And that's huge. Surrender is huge. It's funny because right before we started this interview, I was actually working on my signature talk, and that is in my talk, is surrender. Because when we surrender, we allow the universe to then really fully help. Because I believe this is, to me, law of attraction's more about helping us on our path than it is about manifesting that mansion or that car, which is all great. But I think it's deeper. But surrendering is huge in my book. Yes.
What were some of the places where you were scared to surrender? Like what was like, or was it just like, I can't wait to surrender. I'm going to surrender all.
I've gone through quite a journey on my, because when I found my passion and purpose teaching law of attraction, that was in 2012. And I was working full-time as a nurse during all that. And I was teaching it every other week. I had a group that I taught, and I was writing a book, and I was blogging, and I was on fire, and it was so great. And I had this big thinking. And then all of a sudden I had this upper limiting thing where I freaked out. I'm like, whoa, nope, this is too big. I can't do this. And I gave everything up. I gave my book up for dead. I stopped teaching, and I just started working as a hospice nurse. I'm like, well, that's good work. I'm helping people. But I was miserable, Chris. And I got to the point where, because I was working with the dying, I couldn't lie to myself anymore, because I knew that I could die any day. And do I really want to die with my dreams? And because I already knew what it felt like to be in that passion. And then when I gave up, I was like, I kept justifying, well, nursing's good, and I'm, doing some good things for the world, but I wasn't alive. And when I saw my patients dying, and I go, I could die too with my dreams, which most people do. It was a big wake-up call. So I'm very grateful for that job, because it was at that point I said, I can't let my dreams die. I can't. And so I took the big leap. Like many of us say, it was a huge leap, because I had no plan. I had hardly any money saved. I had literally no idea how to be an entrepreneur. And I completely quit my nursing job. And that was 2 years ago. And I don't regret it a single minute. But I needed that courageous leap to say, okay, let's just see. And that's the trust. That's the surrender. I surrendered. I don't know what you're going to do for me, universe, but I trust you. I believe in you. And that's what kept me going. That's really what kept me going.
What, taking the big leap is, there are specifics to that. Like there's a specific way that Michele took the big leap. Like what were some of the things you did to start taking action? Was it like, how did you take that leap? Did you quit your job right away? Did you transition?
Well, because I've been coaching on the side for several years, since 2012. So this was 2018 that I finally quit. But no, I kind of leapt without, I didn't have a safety net. Let's just put it that way. But what happened was, at the time, is my sweetie, my soulmate, he was also a business owner. And so I met him, and he's in year 3 in his business. He's really struggling. And so I helped him out financially while he was struggling. And so when I quit, he still wasn't making money. But it just so happened the divine, inspiration, everything worked out, as then he started making money, and he was able to pay me back. And so literally I didn't know that was going to happen until after I left. But I think, Chris, what the reason why I did it the way I did it, for me, because I was so in that contrast with death. I
Mm.
didn't feel like I had time.
Yeah.
And I do, but you never know, right? And so I just thought, let's just see. And the thing is, I have a lot of faith in this universe. I teach this all the time. I practice what I preach.
Mm.
I believe the universe would catch me. And it has. It really has. And so, but I've always taken action. That's been part of my superpowers. I'm not afraid to get out there. I'm not afraid to try something. A lot of things don't work out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But what I do feel like is if I at least surrender, I feel that divine pull, I do it. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, at least I'm following forward. Right.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Like, what happens when you've coached others or seen others and they're like, well, it's great for you that the universe caught you, but I took a big leap and it didn't catch me.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you say? Like when it doesn't work out, what's the perspective you give in coaching?
Well, and I also can't be honest to say that the universe has, I have fallen a lot and I've scraped my knees a lot. And I saw, again, I'm with my coaching clients and with me and also with my sweetie, is the thing when you fall, you just have to keep going. And what I find for me, and I think this has worked for me, is when I fall, I then take even more action. Like action is what got me out of that. When I'm feeling like, oh crap, this really sucks. Like I'm massively in debt and how am I going to do this? I'm like, that's okay. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And the one thing that I listen to a lot of motivational videos. I don't know about you, but I listen to people who inspire me because there's not a single successful person out there who has not fallen. Right. And so I think of that whenever I, struggle or my clients struggle or anyone I work with, it's just, it's part of the journey, but just to know this is all there for a reason, because the strength you get every time you fall, you get more lessons, you learn more about your resilience, you learn about how strong and persevering you are. There's so much in that. We don't want to cheat ourselves of that, really.
Right. I like that, the reframe on the failing forward part of it, where like, I think so many of us have a relationship to failing, like, from some wounded child back in our day, right? Of like, I failed and so I'm a failure and I hate failing and I feel stupid and I look stupid, whatever the baggages we bring with failure. But to reframe it, to create a new mindset around it, where it's like, so I failed doing something that I love. I failed in pursuit of something that matters to me. And so I just keep learning. Changes the whole game of action. Like some people take action and then stop taking action because they failed and it hurt and it embarrassed them and whatever. But but right, the reframe makes it so that you can keep taking action and dance in this thing called life.
Right. I actually did a whole podcast on failure is your friend, because I got really into understanding like the struggles that I go through in business, and those times that it get really hard and you want to quit. And I don't know about you, but I think we all go through that where we like, forget this. This is too hard. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak-minded. I'm just saying. Right. But I really believe that the failure, when I started listening to motivational videos on failure, and I saw my sweetie and saw all the failure that he went through, but he kept getting up and now he's succeeding. And so I think it's just actually a gift. And so, I mean, I encourage people to listen to that podcast of mine because I have a lot of tips and tools on why failure is our friend. But it's a perspective shift, because there's no person that's going to go through entrepreneurship and not have moments of failure.
Right.
It's not possible.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Right.
Yeah, big time. So good. So what, when you coach people, where do you have them start? So I would guess most of people in our tribe and people who think about important work have heard of the law of attraction. Maybe they've watched The Secret. There's something where the law of attraction has touched their life in some way, but they haven't gone deep in it yet. So where do you start coaching people in the space of the law of attraction?
Well, I think the number one thing is to see where people are at, because we are attracting where we are right now. Our things we've been thinking about over and over and over again, like those beliefs, right? And so you can get a good picture of what people are thinking just by seeing what's in their life, the mirror of the people around them. So just really understanding where you are. I also encourage people to always see what you want. Like we talk a lot about what you want, what you like feel would make you excited, what would bring you joy, what would, and it doesn't have to be anything really tangible. It's like, I just encourage people, well, your lesson today is to go find your joy, follow your joy, and then do everything you can to get in that good feeling place, right? Because that's the thing, we got to feel good. But I think I get a wide assortment of clients. I get people looking for soulmates. I get people looking for financial abundance. I get people who are looking to get pregnant. I mean, I have so many variety of people, because everybody wants to, the things we want, and this is the thing, I think people come to law of attraction because there's things they really want and they can't get it, and they go, oh, there's another way of doing it that's not as hard, it's actually more joyful. I'm doing that. So I help all sorts of people, but I think the number one thing I teach people from the get-go is see where they're at, see what their conversations are, and then how can we raise that vibration, and how can we change our conversation.
Do you have rituals that you use to raise your vibration? Like you mentioned watching motivational videos. Like, are there other things that you do on a daily basis to raise your vibration?
I'm a huge nature person. And I fortunately live by a beautiful forested park, but whenever I can, I'll go out in nature. Nature's actually the highest vibration possible. It's like, if you feel bad, when you feel good in nature, it's because the nature's at this beautiful vibration. So for me, I do that. I also meditate daily, or most days. And so that's also what I do. And, I recognize for me, because I've been practicing this daily. I did my 365 days of joy. Now I'm doing 365 days of miracle moments. And between those, actually, it's really shifted me, because it's a daily thing. So that's my message to everybody listening. Take small steps daily, and it will pay off. It will pay off. It will.
So good. I love that whole, you talk about action, right? The law of attraction in action. I love the whole, like, small steps daily. It's life-changing. I heard years ago that we overestimate what we can get done in the short term. And we underestimate what we can get done in the long term.
Oh, I like that.
And if you just kept doing small steps every day, your life would be unrecognizable a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Your important work, the thing you're doing in the world, would come to you and be bigger and better than you could have imagined if you kept taking small steps every day.
Right. And you know what inspired, I read this book years ago called The Slight Edge by, it's Jeff Olson. And have you heard that one? So good. And it was a game changer, because what he talks about is just that, like, if we, the time we spent every day watching, stupid shows, or, like wasting our brain power on things that are negative. He says, what if you just read 10 minutes a day of a positive book, or something that's moving you forward every day? And so people who do it every day they're gonna look the same as people who aren't doing it. And then eventually you get to a point where the people who are doing it every day positively will shoot up. It'll be like, boom, like really fast. And the people who don't go the opposite. They go down really fast. And so, but it's a choice. So the thing, what I love about that, what you're talking about, Chris, life feels overwhelming when we try to look at the big picture and we're like, how am I going to do that? Right. I always teach people, don't worry about the how. Take the word how and cross it out. It is not the how, but it is about taking that little step every day. So my videos were that, my podcast is that. I've been doing both of them for a year and a half, and like, it's amazing how far I've reached from it. It's amazing.
It's so good. I love the accountability of that. Having something, this is why when I teach marketing, my first program is called the Groundswell Method Intensive. I basically have people post every day, and I'm having them post inside of the conversation they want to lead in the world. And in the beginning of those 6 weeks, people feel clumsy, clunky, embarrassed, whatever about what they're saying. But by the end of 6 weeks, by posting every day, they're starting to embody their message and feel inspired by the truth that comes through them. And all that is doing something little every day, like every day.
And okay, this is another thing, that perfectionism needs to go out the door. And I did everything without knowing what I was doing. I started my podcast without a microphone, without seriously, the sound was so bad back then, but it doesn't matter, because the content was great. And so, but if I waited to get it perfect, I would have never gotten it out. And so that's been my big message. I never do anything perfect, but I also think it's important to be authentic. And so for me, I do my own editing with my podcast, but I don't edit everything out. If I make a little weird sound, I'm like, oh, that's okay. That's just part of life. Right. So I think it's important to just be you wherever you're showing up.
So good. I love it. I love it. Well, if people want to learn more about the 365-day shows you do, or listen to your Law of Attraction and Action podcast, or connect with you somehow, how do they get a hold of you?
The best way is to go to my website at michele-joy.com. That's michele-joy.com. And there's links to all my social media, which is I share on YouTube, but mostly on Facebook. But I'm trying to get my YouTube thing growing more, but I share it all there. And so please friend me on Facebook. And of course, my podcast is being heard anywhere and everywhere. It's called Law of Attraction in Action. It's being heard in almost 100 countries.
Nice.
I'm at almost 100,000 downloads. It is amazing what it's done for me. So definitely check that out.
So good. Thanks so much, Michele, for being on the show.
Thank
until
you.
next time I get to see you or meet you somehow, take care. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Bye.
Do you have important work in the world? We can help you produce a show just like this one and get your message out in the world. Go to mygroundswell.com to connect with us now.